Today I am going to share some essential tips that will help you excel in your economics exam. In this video, my main focus is to discuss not only the important tips to be kept in mind while attempting the paper, but also certain strategies even while preparing for the exam. First half of the video, I am sharing the important tips, and in the second half, we will discuss few important questions from past board papers. Make sure that you watch the video till the end. Let's start with the basics. First and foremost, while learning the definitions, pay attention to the keywords. I know that it requires skill of rote learning, but this shows understanding of the basic concepts and gets you score easily. Avoid oversimplifying your language. Use specific economic terms. This adds credibility to your answers and also shows your deep engagement with the subject. Think of it as speaking the language of economics. You can actually pause the video here to understand the difference between simplified language and economic jargon by paying attention to this slide. Another powerful tool at your disposal is the use of diagrams and graphs. Diagrams and graphs are not just visual aids, they are crucial for illustrating complex economic relationships. Presentation matters. Use a ruler for straight lines to keep your work neat and professional. Avoid vague references like in the left figure. Be specific in your illustrations. Don't just draw diagrams. Reference them in your answers. Explain what they illustrate and how they support your argument. Accuracy is key. If you are discussing demand or supply, mention what is being supplied, be it wheat, water, or any other commodity, and always label your axis clearly. Use arrows to indicate changes in variables. This makes your diagrams more informative. Remember, a well-labeled diagram with correct arrows can significantly convey your understanding, especially when you're short on time. This is another important tip. Economics is about probabilities. Avoid overusing the word will. Instead, opt for phrases like may or could lead to. Frame your predictions as possibilities. It reflects the complex nature of economic systems and show a mature understanding of the subject. Another important tip to be kept in mind is this one. You can pause the video here to read the whole slide. Economics is not just about models and diagrams. It is about the world around us. Whenever possible, tie in examples or real-world applications to make your answers more engaging and persuasive. Lastly, manage your time wisely. Use any reading time effectively to plan your approach and allocate time to each section adequately. Here I want to bring your attention to a common concern among students navigating the EcoApp exam. It's understandable that many of you might feel daunted by the prospect of facing a more extensive examination paper compared to your counterparts in ICSE Economics. It makes sense if you are feeling nervous about having to attempt a 100-mark paper instead of 80 within 2 hours. But I want you to not let that fear get to you. Here is something important to know. Thinking that you are at a disadvantage isn't true. The people who make the exam know about the challenges you have, and they have made the questions to fit what you can handle. For example, look at this question. This is a question from the past paper. What do you notice? The board is asking you to write 3 characteristics for 6 marks. The first part is 1 mark and then 3 characteristics of capital for 6 marks. So you are not asked to write a lot, but the marks allotted are more against each point. They are not expecting voluminous essays, but are instead focusing on the quality and precision of your responses. Now, what are the important points you should keep in mind when you are answering these type of questions? Always remember that subheadings carry marks. So don't forget to write those and then explain each point well. Another thing to be kept in mind, Sometimes the explanation you give is not corresponding to the subheading you are writing. Some students discuss the functions of capital instead of its characteristics. Many students forget to write keywords for the definition of capital. These are the keywords: man-made durable goods, production. If you pay attention to these cues, you will not write unnecessary. The goal here is not to overwhelm you with the quantity of writing. Another question from the past paper. Here you are expected to just name any two instruments of fiscal policy. Board is expecting nothing more than that. This is another question from past paper. If you notice, here also the board is not expecting you to write much. This answer I have taken from the board answer key. Now you will ask me how to judge how much the board is expecting from each answer. For this, you need to pay attention to the first word of the question, which in this case is state. It could be mention, it could be state. Any two differences between these two market structures. Now they are not still asking us explain any two differences. They are writing here state. Though I would personally recommend you to still write in complete sentences instead of small phrases, but the board is expecting you to just make clear the difference. They are not expecting you to explain each point in detail. In short, read the question carefully, analyze what is asked, and then answer to the point. Do not waste time in writing extra points in the answers. So let's approach this challenge of managing time with confidence and a clear mind. Remember, it's all about making your knowledge visible in a concise and effective manner. Now, I have taken few questions where I feel we can discuss various important aspects to be kept in mind while you are attempting the economic applications paper. These questions are from past board papers and they are very important. These questions can actually become the benchmark for you to tackle various similar questions. Let's discuss this question. Now, I picked this question because I want to bring to your notice that how accuracy is important in the diagrams. If you notice, the board question is draw a neat labeled diagram of a demand curve. So the board is expecting you to draw the correct direction of the curve. They are expecting you to label the axis properly, quantity on x-axis, price on y-axis. Then also they are expecting you to label the demand curve like DD here. Now this accuracy, clarity and correct diagram tells the examiner that you do know the concept well. You can definitely expect a question like this. This question I have picked from another past paper, section A, compulsory question. You can actually score 10 marks with just 5 correct definitions. Remember that you need to prepare your definitions well. Pay attention to the keywords while learning the definitions. Remember, these keywords which are underlined here are economic jargon. They are language of economics. The board expects you to write those. This question I picked up to show how important it is for you to prepare thoroughly. Now, common mistakes that students make here in this type of question is that many students are unable to identify the degrees of elasticity of supply, especially your relative elastic and relative inelastic supply curve. Now, a few students either give inadequate explanation or write change in quantity demanded while explaining elasticity of supply. So here, when you are writing percentage change in quantity supplied, you need to write, but students tend to write percentage change in quantity demanded. Many students waste their time in copying the diagram. Now, if you look at the question, identify and define the degree of price elasticity of supply from the diagram. So, diagram is given in the question. Please don't waste your time in copying this diagram. It's a complicated diagram. It's better that you just focus on identifying, see which curve we are talking about. For example, S1. It's a unitary elastic supply curve. It indicates percentage change in quantity supplied of a commodity is proportional to the percentage change in price, because the question is define also. So you have to identify the term. So this is identification, and the second part of the answer is definition of that degree. Now these type of chapters, when you are preparing, need to be practiced actively with the paper and pen in your hands. Make sure that you practice by writing the correct notations for each type of elasticity curve, whether elasticity of supply is greater than 1, less than 1, or equal to 1. Pay attention to where the curve is starting from. In this case, like you have a curve starting here, you have a curve starting here from the axis. So when you are preparing this chapter, make sure that you understand what is the reason for the shape of these curves and where are they starting from. Keeping these steps in mind will help you to be very precise and clear while attempting the paper, and this will also help you to manage your time well. It is significant to be clear about writing precise answers in the economics paper. Why do we need to be precise? Again, to manage your time efficiently and also leaving an impression on the examiner that you are not just rambling and beating around the bush. Now, to do that, your preparation must be thorough. Now, if you notice this question, explain how the following factors affect the supply of a commodity. Now, you need to understand that you cannot do selective study in EcoApp. The reason is they have picked certain factors and they're asking you to explain those factors. You cannot say that if there are 8 factors affecting supply of a commodity, I can just do any 4 from the textbook and hope that they will come. So you never know what factors the examiner is going to pick. So it's better that you don't leave any factor or any kind of function or features. Don't do selective study. Okay. So now what kind of common mistakes we make here? Now, when you are talking about state of technology, many students, they forget to explain both sides of the aspect. So what happens to supply when technology is obsolete and when advanced technology is used? Some children get confused. They interchange the terms. Second is price of factors of production. Now here, when you read these answers, you will notice that you are supposed to write from both sides. Now, instead of writing on prices of factors of production, students write on how the price of the product affects its supply. So what does it tell the examiner? That you don't know the meaning of what is factor of production. Third is goals of the firm. Now, the goals of the firm could be sales maximization or profit maximization. Many of us are unclear about that concept. Fourth is future price expectations. Now, many students link the future expectation of price with demand and thereby the effect on supply. Now, when you are preparing these type of points, pay attention to the content, be clear about what they are saying. Nobody is expecting you to rote learn, but you are still expected to understand the concept and should be able to write in precise terms. This question also proves that selective study can prove to be dangerous. This is another important question you will come across probably in every other board paper. Here in this question, specific features are being asked and each point carries 2 marks. Therefore, your explanation needs to be very clear. Now, in this question, pay attention. Many students overlook the first part of the question. Why is labor considered an important factor of production? Usually we assume that the first part of the question is just a mere statement. When you prepare the explanation part of these features, understand the concept well. For example, for the second feature, labor can improve its efficiency. Instead of writing that an individual laborer could improve his efficiency through education, children mention factors such as wages, working conditions, and climate. Question is from the perspective of the laborer. How can he improve his efficiency? Don't associate perishability of labor in the third point with old age and death. It's practically the impossibility of labor being stored and used later. Therefore, while preparing, pay attention to the explanation of each point. This is a tricky question which confuses the students if they don't pay attention to detail while reading the question. This is why your reading time should be used judiciously. Many students in this question write about the different types of loans instead of deposits, as they are unable to interpret the meaning of mobilize funds from the public correctly. Some students who write about the different types of deposits forget to mention the rate of interest and when and how the money from the deposit could be withdrawn. All these points are important points which you should keep in mind while preparing. I know I have only taken a very few sample questions from the past papers, but I assure you that these strategies can be applied to various other questions. With these strategies in your toolkit, you are well on your way to do your paper well. Remember, it's not just about what you know, it's about how you present it. Good luck.